What's up, guys? Kurt here with another 5-minute guitarist tutorial. Today's tutorial is going to be for Hallelujah, originally by Leonard Cohen, but the popular versions are either by Pentatonics or Jeff Buckley. Now, if you came here from my other tutorial on Hallelujah with a pick, this one's going to be a little different. This one's going to be a fingerstyle guitar tutorial, which, in my opinion, the song sounds much better with fingerstyle, but it is a little trickier. If you're new to fingerstyle guitar, this will be a perfect starting point because I'll walk you through everything you need to know. Let's get started. Please remember to comment, like, and subscribe if you enjoy this video. It really helps me out a lot. Okay, so we're going to start with the verse. I'll play it for you first so you've got an idea of what we're doing, and then I'll walk you through it. So that's the whole verse there. Now, what we're doing here is basically just the same pattern with our right hand and switching between a bunch of different chords. So first, before we get into the chords, I'll just walk you through the fingerstyle pattern, which is the most important part here. So what we're basically doing is we're playing the lowest note of each chord and then going up to the next string and then playing 2 strings at once and holding that note for a little bit and then going back. So first, grab your C chord, just a standard C chord, nothing interesting here. And what you're going to do is you're going to take your thumb and you're going to play the 5th string or the bottom string of the C chord. Then you're going to take your first finger or your index finger and play the 4th string. After that, take both your 2nd or middle finger and your 3rd or ring finger and play the 3rd and the 2nd strings at the same time. And that's going to make somewhat of a chord. And then to finish off the pattern, you go back and play with your index finger on the 4th string again. So if you're new to fingerstyle guitar, you're probably going to want to try that out really slowly at the beginning and get your fingers sort of used to that. So that's basically the exact same pattern though that we're going to do for the entire song. Now once you've got that, we'll move into some chord changes. So the first part of the verse switches between a C to an A minor twice. This is actually a really good change because you've only got to change one finger on the left hand. Just move your 3rd finger from the 3rd fret of the 5th string to the 2nd fret of the 3rd string. And our right hand pattern stays the exact same for both chords. Nice and easy. Try that for a little bit, and once you've got the hang of that, we'll move into the rest of the chord progression. So now, the next part is going to be F, G, C, G. Now this part's going to be a little different. We're going to move to our F chord on the left hand, down to here, and with our right hand, we're going to move from the 5th, 4th, 3rd, and 2nd string, down to the 4th, 3rd, 2nd, and 1st string to match up with the fingers that we hold in our left hand for the F chord. Now what you're going to do to play this one though is the exact same kind of pattern. You start with the low note of the chord, or the root note, which in the case of the F chord is the 4th string. Then you're going to move with your first finger to play the next string, or the 3rd string, and then you're going to play the 2nd and the 1st strings with your 2nd and 3rd fingers. And then back to the 3rd string. So it's the exact same pattern as one string above, just move down. And then after the F, we just play that once. You switch to a G with your left hand. And we're going to do the same pattern. Now this time it's going to look a little different, but it's going to be the same thing. We're going to play the 6th string with our thumb. The other 3 fingers are the same. Because now our root note in the G chord, or lowest note of the G chord, is on the 6th string. So we're going to play the 6th string this time, then the 3rd string, then the 2nd and the 1st string, and then back to the 3rd string. So it looks a little different than this, but it's still the exact same thing, just switching with the root note of the actual chord itself. And this is a really common thing that you'll see a lot in fingerstyle guitar. So now if we play the entire verse up to this point, it's going to look like this. One subtle thing you might or might not have noticed is that in the G chord, I don't actually fret my first finger because it makes it easier to switch from the F to the G. With fingerstyle, you can often not switch your chords as quickly because you're only picking one string at a time most of the time. So if I look at my switch between the F to the G, you can hold the F chord, and then I can actually move my 2nd finger before I get the other fingers in place, and play the 6th string, then play the 3rd string because it's an open string, and I don't actually have to have this 3rd finger in place until I'm playing the 2nd and the 1st strings. So if you noticed there, I moved my 2nd finger in place before my 3rd finger actually made it in place, which makes it a little easier to play quicker. Okay, so that's most of the first half of the verse. Now that you've got that, the rest is pretty much just a matter of looking at the chords and playing along with them, and just repeating it a whole bunch of times until you've memorized it. It took me a long time to memorize this one too, so you shouldn't expect to get it quickly. Just have to play it a bunch of times until you remember the chord progression. So one more note for this verse here. When it gets to the line, it goes like this, the 4th, the 5th. We've got our C to an F to a G. Now this time, the F and the G are only going to be played for half the time. So what we're going to do on these is just play the bass note. In the F, this is going to be string 4. And then play the 2nd and 1st strings. So basically at this point, we're going to be playing 4th string, 2nd and 1st, then switch to the G, 6th string, and 2nd and 1st. And besides that, all the rest of the verse is just the same as we've done it before. So I'll play the whole verse for you now, and you can just be aware of when you see the F and the G switch in that line there, it's going to be half length. And that there is the entire verse. You just want to play that a whole bunch of times and follow along with the chord tab in the description below, and eventually you'll get it down. The one final note is that the last A minor you actually play twice. Nothing too fancy, you've just got to play it twice in that time. Now that you've got the verse down, that's most of the song. The chorus, thankfully, is a lot easier. We've got to switch from an F to an A minor, back to an F, C, G, C. And that's the entire chorus. The only things to note here are that F, A minor, and F are played twice instead of just once. Otherwise, if you can play the verse, you should be pretty much able to do the chorus without much thought. If you're up for a challenge, here's one final thing you may have picked up on earlier that I did. In the verse, at the line, "But you don't really care for music, do you?" At the end of that line, you're switching from a C to a G. Now, what I like to do is something called a bass run. I'll show you two first and then explain what it is. So if you notice there, I had a quick little bass run, which is just playing a bunch of rapid bass notes before I switched back to the C. So all you're going to do this is you're going to play your C chord as normal, and then switch to your G, and you're going to do the 6th string, and then play your 2nd and 1st strings. And then with your thumb on your right hand for each note, you're going to go up, play the G again, or the 6th string, then go to the open 5th string, then with your 2nd finger, go to the 2nd fret of the 5th string, and then go to the 3rd fret of the 5th string with your 3rd finger. And that's going to be the first note of your C chord. So here it is slowly, starting from the C. Pretty simple, but it adds a cool little interesting touch just to spice things up a little bit. And if you can play all of those parts, you can play the entire song. The actual picking and strumming isn't that difficult. The only challenging thing here is just remembering all the chords in the verse, which don't be frustrated if it takes you a little while, because it took me a long while to memorize these two for this tutorial. So thanks for joining me for this tutorial. I hope you learned something. If you did, please hit me up with a little comment or a like. And if you want to see more, subscribe to my channel for cool tutorials and other guitar stuff.